Okay, I'm here at a very recognisable house in Stornoway, beside the Manor Park roundabout. And if you could just introduce yourself.
My name is Felix Caro. I teach at the Nicholson Institute, but my views are my personal views and nothing to do with my employers. I should add that, really. And personally, I'm actually from Mexico, but I feel, I've been living in this country, and this is a fight I feel that is worth fighting for, and yeah.
Yeah. So, what is it that you what's your main reason for wanting Brexit, for out of the European Union?
Obviously there's different issues, but one that really has come to the top of the pile has been democracy, saving democracy, wanting to wrest back control, and really I want to exercise my democratic right, that if I'm not happy with my elected politician, I can actually vote him out after a certain period. If he's not fit for purpose, let's get somebody else in. But we cannot do that with the European community or European Union. I mean, that's one thing. This EEC has been a lie. It started as an economic community, a trading bloc, a great idea, but then it morphed, I believe in 2009, into the EU. Having said that, they set out their stall very early on, saying that they wanted a federalist union. So nobody actually can say, hand on heart, that they didn't mean to do this. In fact, let's have the moral courage to take them to their words, that they want a super state.
Yeah. A
super state with nation states having little or no more power, rather like parish councils. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yes, democracy, and but also I think very close is the immigration issue. I'm an immigrant. I had to jump through the hoops, rightly so. Mm-hmm. I feel that a country should have restrictions, because if we have unfettered, unrestricted access to immigration, it's going to put undue pressure, pressure on our public services, like national service, teaching, classrooms. You can't, I'm a teacher, and I have seen evidence of this down London, where I used to teach also, and parts of Scotland, where immigration. But this is a very touchy subject, and people don't want to actually broach the subject because they'll brand you as a racist.
Yeah.
But I think I think, being of a different hue, I can actually come out and say it, and I feel that it's something that needs to be addressed, definitely.
Well, that word racism that you mentioned there, I mean, it's not truly racism, of course. They don't understand what racism is.
Exactly.
The people who are accusing us, for instance, of racism, when we say things like, well, we shouldn't have unfettered immigration. Because what is racism? It's simply hatred of another because of their race.
Exactly.
That's it. But it's nothing to do with that.
It's not a race issue. I mean, I have good friends who are in this movement, this campaign to get us out of the EU, who support. They actually proactively support immigration, or rather people who are destitute in other countries, like I think Moldova. They've sent van loads of goods out there, and I feel that, yes, help them in their place where they feel comfortable, where they have their own culture. But I think jumping the gun somewhat. Hi, my sweetness. This is my wife.
How you feel?
Hello, pleased to meet you. Yes.
My little one. I think the movement of people from a different culture and wanting to integrate them into Western society is a leap in the dark. for most of them. And Western culture, for many, is an anathema, and some vehemently hates it.
Well,
and they wish to actually change our way of life.
Well, that is the agenda of basically of the Muslims.
Exactly my point. Exactly. But you then bang on about that, and you are deemed an Islamophobe. You know,
yes, and if you're an Islamophobe, as so-called, you're automatically labelled a racist as well. And we've already pointed out how.
And again, they mention these two words just to stifle discussion, to stifle a conversation.
Well, people who do, of course, who are in the habit of labelling like that, are proving that they don't think. They're not thinkers.
Exactly.
Because if you were a thinker, you would explain. You know, you wouldn't just label. You would explain.
Definitely.
You know.
I mean, and the other thing is stifles satire. We can't. Satire is there to actually as a form of criticism, isn't it? And when you can't have satire, what can you have? Suddenly, everything becomes very quiet, and there's an embarrassing pause, and people, you know, what there is an agenda. I feel.
Yeah.
You know, the ugly twin to this so-called multiculturalism, which I used to subscribe to, I must admit, was PC nonsense gone bananas. You know?
Well, I often ask myself the question: what is it that motivates people that want to, for the want of a better expression, destroy the country?
Exactly.
Because it's just simply not practical or feasible to to open the floodgates to millions and millions of people from far poorer countries.
Exactly.
When there's only so many that we can sustainably support.
Exactly.
And what percentage of these people actually don't want to contribute? What percentage are criminals? What percentage want to just accept benefits?
Exactly.
And things like that. What percentage are going to be automatically on benefits for life or things like disability or whatever else?
Yes.
But never mind these things, and let's not check anybody. Let's just let everybody in. Well, it's like national suicide.
It's madness.
Yes.
And it changes. It will change if this is allowed to happen. It will change what essentially makes us British.
Of course.
What it essentially makes the Spanish, the Italians, and so on and so forth, and we'll just be identified geographically by our position.
Well, my first stop is really to do with duty, and who is our first duty to? Like your family. Your first duty is to your family.
To your family, then your friends, your community.
Yeah. I look at it scripturally, and I take my cue from the Bible. For instance, it says in one part, he who will not provide for his own house has denied the faith and is worse than an infidel.
Yes.
Right. So the Bible is telling us clearly there that if you don't provide for your own first, that's your first duty.
Yes.
Then. What are we doing? What I should say is, nationally, there are many people in this country who want to provide for everyone except other countries before this country.
Exactly.
At the expense of this country. They want to destroy this country in a sense. Really, that's all you can conclude.
It's just wanton madness. I mean, the Western society is the backbone of this society. It was built on Judeo-Christian building blocks. Changing, for example, I understand that certain parts of Britain practice Sharia law. What's that all about?
Oh, exactly.
What is that all about?
Exactly.
And prominent members of Parliament are saying that Sharia law are helping families, and I see the evidence. Let's look at the evidence. that it's it was a misogynistic creed or culture that has no place in our society.
No.
The way they treat their women, the way they treat their children, animals, it beggars belief.
Well, I mean, I don't know, but you would be hard pushed, I think, to think up a more ridiculous set of rules
Exactly.
than Sharia law, more barbaric or ridiculous or backward set of rules. And I often ask the question, why would anybody want to believe in such a religion
Exactly.
that demands that you're put to death if you leave it, for instance?
It's crazy, and everybody that refuses to criticize that. I mean, let's look at that elephant in the room. That Saudi Arabia. How many refugees are those affluent countries taking in? Hardly any. You know.
Yeah.
The movement seems to be into the West.
If they're taking
Like there seems to be an agenda to change, and by opening the floodgates, by Merkel opening the floodgates to a potential 127 million, because we're not just talking about the Balkans.
No.
We're talking of Ukraine, obviously Turkey. Turkey especially, these are people with a different mindset.
Well, the problem with Turkey is more than, individual countries are one thing, but Turkey is not is an individual country, but it's also something else, which is infinitely more dangerous, more threatening, and that is the fact that it's a conduit for the whole of the Middle East, for many millions more, because that is the gateway to the West. East-West.
It backs onto Libya, it backs onto Iran, and even pro-Europeans are saying that is a dangerous precedent.
And the new government of Turkey, the current government of Turkey, is pro-Islamist.
Definitely.
They're trying to turn the country into an Islamic theocracy. He's trying his best, the president.
President Erdogan now has the EU in his pockets. We're now financing to the tunes of billions of pounds their membership into the EU, and Merkel has given them to the tune of 3 million or 3 billion.
Well, isn't it strange that the EU denies the UK everything it asks for, yet without a whimper gives Turkey everything it asks for?
Excellent.
There's something going on here.
There's a hidden agenda.
Yeah.
I feel that 43 years of folly, a very good idea. Call me cynical, but it was a good idea. But I feel that it's just gone from bad to worse. And I feel that the departure of Britain will cause a schism through
I think
it will embolden the other nations.
Yeah, you can see
Denmark.
Yeah, you can see the rotten house of cards collapsing.
It's a house of cards.
Yeah.
Exactly my point.
What gets me, really, what I always write back at Genesis chapter 11, where it talks about, it describes the nations of the world and the languages of all of the people being confused.
Yes.
And thereby the nations resulting from that.
Yes.
Because at first they were building the Tower of Babel. And,
that's right, the Tower of Babel. Yes.
That's
right.
right. So that the whole point of the Tower of Babel was so they wouldn't be dispersed.
Yes.
But so they would stay together and they would grow and be strong together.
Exactly.
But of course God had other ideas, and he confused the languages, and then they had no choice because they couldn't understand each other, so they dispersed.
Exactly.
And this was God's will, but this was in judgment against their folly they were plainly going away from God in their unity.
Yes.
They were uniting against God, and God could see plainly that this was a bad thing for them. So anyway, what we have in the world now is different nations with different languages, and if you take people sometimes refer to how contradictory it might be, or they think it is if you, for instance, you're a unionist in the UK, but as I am, wanting to come out of the EU, but there's no contradiction because the UK is made up of 4 nations that all speak the same language.
I understand also that the edifice that represents the EU is it looks semi-built, like the Tower of Babel. And
That's right. It's designed on it. Yeah.
Exactly. There's obviously parallels to the biblical scripture there, and I have a friend of mine who's a practicing Christian here on this island, and he can see parallels happening in. In fact, he quotes the last book in the Bible, Revelations, and that and in a way that gives him a sense of not doom and gloom, because it's effectively, as he says, that it's the Word of God becoming a reality.
Oh yeah.
And that in a sense that will usher in a new era.
For me, the biggest problem the EU has is God himself, because it's just like the Tower of Babel. It's a unity. They're uniting against God.
Yes.
Right. All of their laws and everything are anti-God.
Yes.
The whole structure, everything about it is anti-God. It's a continuing. It's part of the continuing war against God. And as a matter of fact, we talk about the New World Order and things as an evil organization and so on. And this is all part of it, really.
Yeah.
Even if it's not part of it, it's certainly going in that direction. Clearly,
it's going counter what God wished.
And what the EU is fighting against, in that sense, is against the judgment of God, or this particular judgment with regard to languages.
Yes.
What better way of stopping people uniting in their sin, in this situation? What better way of stopping people uniting than to confuse their languages so that they can't understand each other, which is the case. And you have all these nations. And they all speak different languages, and it simply cannot work because God has set his judgment in place. And it's actually God's judgment we're fighting against when we're trying to unite different countries with different languages as one country.
Yes.
And God has, in Genesis chapter 11, it's described how God set out with the intention of setting this in place so that it would be impossible for these nations to be at one with each other, to live as one nation.
Okay.
Because this is God's plan, and we cannot defeat it. We cannot thwart it. It's just an impossibility.
Yes. My friend is shaking up attitudes, shaking up. Hopefully, it will shake up the system, whether it goes one way or the other. Obviously, I hope it goes for us that we do leave, because that will definitely cause the schism that I envisage. But one way or the other, it will rattle the cages of these institutions, and in another way, in a different sense, it will hopefully cause that collapse.
Because it's I think what it is. The bottom line is this. I think corruption.
Yes.
And us that are against the EU or want out of the EU and are against the EU are against corruption.
That's right. You just says, is this right or is this wrong? And this is where the word virtue comes into doing the right thing regardless.
Yeah, you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Well,
it's a pleasure talking.
Okay.
Yes.
Just